how to name your business, and some contrarian ideas for building your coaching practice today on Brand Tales.
Brand Tales, all your brand tales. Listen to how the greatest brands came to be.
Hey there, and welcome to Brand Tales. This is Holly Chantal, your host, and I am loving hearing from you, the reviews. The community we're building here is awesome. You guys all rock. And today I have another amazing coach to share with you. Her name is Karen Capello, and she has been in the industry for 13 years. So she has seen it all. And she works specifically with coaches that are just starting out and like fresh out of coaching school. And she helps them fill their practices, which I think is just a really awesome place to be because coaches have a mission and a passion, and they're going to change the world. And what Karen is doing is helping them get a leg up and get their businesses started. And what I find most interesting about Karen is that the advice she gives is not necessarily what you would typically hear. So, in today's interview, some of the questions I ask her, she gives very intriguing answers, very trailblazing answers, answers that are not necessarily the status quo that you would typically hear. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk to Karen. So, welcome, Karen. Thank you so much for being here. I am super excited to be meeting you in person well, kind of in person for the first time.
Thanks, Holly. I'm so excited. I'm coming out with my platinum hair today on your show.
Yes, this is a new you, new hair.
It's my summer dew.
Well, I feel very honored.
You are.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So, I mean, you've been in the industry for a very long time, as Nancy Marmolejo says, she's a sage of the industry, and I feel like the same thing for you. You're been around for a long time. You're amazing, and I'm really curious how you got started in the coaching world.
Yes. Well, I always say I ruined my resume. So I started out as a university administrator, and then I became a president of a semiconductor manufacturing company. And then I went into estate planning. And so I do say I kind of ruined my resume. And when I came into coaching, it all brought it together.
Right.
But there was this defining moment, Holly, that I will, and I haven't shared this too often, but I was in estate planning and I was really burnt out. I was working 60 to 70 hours a week. It was way too much for me. And I was getting a little resentful of the time I was putting in, even though I was very successful. So my boss took me aside one day and she said to me, you've been very negative. She didn't even say it that nicely, honestly. And at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, if this job can put me, who, by the way, I am the most positive person that people have always kind of kidded me about this my whole life, that I was kind of this ostrich with my head in the sand, this Pollyanna. If this job could put me into that negative of a space, then I needed to leave that job. So that was kind of this defining moment where I went, I've got to go. And I made that decision in January of 2002. And actually, it took me till September, 9 months. Isn't that interesting? Gestation period. It took me till September to really get out of there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what made you take the leap? Like, how did you, it was a 9 month journey. Like, how did you actually take that leap?
Well, it's interesting. I knew in January that I was going to leave sometime that year. It just came to me. I had to. So I think it was like February or March. I was dropping off some paperwork for a friend of mine to another friend. And she said, I've just become a coach. I'd love to give you a free coaching session. And me, I love free coaching, free healing, I take advantage of everything. So I said, okay, let's do it. So she actually gave me a free coaching session, and then I hired her as my coach. And it's interesting because that's what got me out of my job. She coached me for about, I think, 6 months of those 9 and got me ready to leave the job. And by the way, I did not know what I was going to do. So I left my full-time job, and I did have money saved. So I always laugh because I say, some people, it seemed to me if I had a husband, it would be easier, which I didn't have. I was single, I was all by myself. But
Hmm.
then the people who have husbands say, well, it might be easier if you're by yourself because then there's no expectations of help with the family and the
Right.
kids and all that. So it goes both ways. But I was single and I had money saved up. And so I thought, okay, I'll just take from now till the end of the year, from September till the end of the year, to figure out what I wanted to do. And I left. I cleaned every drawer and closet in my house. And little did I know this magic art of tidying up is now very popular. But at
Hmm.
the time, I just wanted to use my time well. And it turned out that about 2 months into this, one of my friends called me and she said, I know what you are. You're a coach. And you might as well just go get training and get paid for it. And it's funny because my own coach never said that to me.
Hmm.
It was somebody outside of this. And when she said it, it
Just
resonated
clicked. Yeah.
completely for me. And so I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love you guys, you and I have so much in common. It's so funny. We're both have background in residence life
Yeah.
and the same philosophy, like the um, do like the crazy stuff when you don't have the family and the husband and the
Hmm.
like, yeah, that's the time to really take leaps. Though, like you said, on the other hand, having a husband and a family as a safety net is also a great way of doing things, and I think that people fall on both sides of that fence.
They do.
So so I know that when people start their businesses, because I work in branding, coming up with a name is very difficult sometimes. So tell me, what is the story behind your company name?
Well, here's the funny thing. My company name is Karen Capello LLC because I couldn't think of a name, Holly. That's the funny part. So it was really I was helping coaches even at the
Hmm.
time, and people were saying, "Oh, it's so hard to name a business." And I said, "Well, I just use my own name." Now, actually, that's not a great idea if you ever want to sell the business to use your own name, and I know that, but I didn't want it to stop me from getting going.
Hmm.
And I couldn't think of a name that would like last me for all these years of my life. So I thought, okay, just use your own name because it's your name and you know it's yours. No one else is going to have this name.
Hmm.
So I did use my own name, but one of the my tagline I think is very unusual, and that's where I think I my the uniqueness of my business comes through, and
Hmm.
that's the tagline of success with ease and joy.
Oh, I love
And
that.
I don't remember how I came up with this tagline. I mean, I don't even remember if I don't remember saying it, but somewhere it showed up on my new website. So it happened, and that comes from being in that 60 to 70 hour a week job in estate
Hmm.
planning, and I had a lot of success. I made $1 million round table my second year, which is it's a big success,
Hmm.
and most people don't get that for many more years than that. But I was exhausted. And so my whole tagline, success with ease and joy, I put it in front of my face every single day so that I remember it. Because my tendency is to work hard, my tendency is to be a little bit more perfectionistic,
Hmm.
and now I say, okay, let it go. And so that is the name the story behind success with ease and joy is that's what I need to learn every day
Hmm.
of my life. And I kind of consider that a little bit like the name of my business, the
Hmm.
theme.
That's actually what I thought the name of your business was when I looked at your. So that works out.
See?
And that's one of the type of taglines that I like is it's not overly clever, it doesn't rhyme, it's something that just really is a touchstone for you and
Yeah.
shows who you are. It creates a feeling like ease and joy is something that people
Yeah.
really want. And then I love that you say that it's something that you look at every day and make sure that you're remembering it for yourself and, because that's what you're delivering. So that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to speak to one thing just because, we like to pull out the little nuggets here.
Yes.
I think that taking your name and using it as your business name is the way to go, especially when you're starting out.
Really? Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
good.
it's a question that I get a lot, it be in branding. And when you said that, it might hurt you if you were to try to sell your business, I actually disagree because you can take your products and your programs and sub brand them. And that means you can license those systems and sell that
Ah,
and keep your name as your brand if you decide to do something else.
that's a good
So
idea.
just I
Thank
just
you.
want to I just want to offer that, not necessarily because it might be something you need to hear, but the people that are listening, I hope will get something out of that because sometimes they freeze when they're like, ah, you mean I'm stuck here? Thank you for sharing that. So if you were to describe your talents as superpowers, so the things that you're really good at as superpowers, what would they be?
Oh, this is a fun question. Well, somebody years ago told me I have a propensity for stating the obvious. So I think that's a superpower because here's the thing. What's obvious to me is not obvious to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of an early adopter. I have a little bit of a strong intuition. So things are very obvious to me and not to others. So
Mm-hmm.
when I state them, it actually helps people. So I think that's a complete superpower. But I also think I have a little bit of ability to foresee the future.
Mm.
And maybe there are others who have this, but I love this power of if somebody tells me something, I can kind of see if they keep going in that trajectory, I can see where they're going to end up
Mm-hmm.
in, all the way along the path. And so there is this little bit of a crystal ball in my head
Mm-hmm.
that lets me kind of see that foretelling the future. And that really helps me as a coach because I don't say I'm right because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm not, but sometimes I am. And I am often enough that I listen to it. And tell you a quick story. It's really funny. I was with my sister at New Year's. This probably goes back about 10 years. And we were at her house with a friend. And we were all there at New Year's. And this friend was doing the tarot cards on the floor. And we were just kind of chilling out. I think I was drinking a glass of wine or something. And her friend said to me something about her job. She says, I have questions about my job. I'm going to do the cards. And I said, I actually think you're going to be leaving your job this year. And she said, oh, no, I could never leave my job. My daughter's starting college. It just definitely won't happen. And my sister pipes up because she knows me. When do you think this is going to happen, Karen? And I said, well, I think it's going to happen before April 1st. Of course, I could be wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman is like, no, 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 you're definitely wrong. So on March 31st, I get a call from my sister. She's driving in the car with this friend of hers, and she says, Karen, Kathy has something to tell you. And Kathy says, I resigned from my job. Today is my last day. You were right. Now, I don't always
That's
have the
crazy.
dates, Holly, but
Yeah.
that was like, I can see things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just comes to me. So I really rely on that a lot.
Yeah, that intuition is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that you trust it enough that you use it in your work because I think a lot of coaches are naturally intuitive, but they don't trust it or they think it's too woo woo to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And you own it. I love that.
Thank you. It is funny because I used to say, before I came into coaching, I used to say, everybody would ask for my advice.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they still do, but now I do it in a different way. But everyone asked for my advice. And then I would give them my advice and they'd go off and do it and their lives would be great. And I would say I was the only one that wasn't taking my advice.
Mm-hmm.
And when I
Mm.
came into coaching, I realized I had to listen to my own intuition. And that my whole life changed really when I started doing that. So you're absolutely right.
That's awesome. And actually I'm the opposite. Like I've always used my intuition to build my business, but I've always been afraid to use it on other people's business.
Oh,
So it's like the
okay.
flip side. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's really interesting. And have you ever had a moment in your business that was like an epic fail?
Um, how long do we have for this call? Okay, yes. I mean, I've had a lot of them, but one that happened when I was a very new coach, which is it was just amazing. I got a gig speaking at Canyon Ranch Health Resort, which we have two of the biggest spas in the world here in Tucson, Arizona. I'm so happy to live here. I love the spa. But anyway, I applied and I got accepted to be a guest lecturer at Canyon Ranch. And so I would go, in the beginning, I would go weekly and give a little, talk to the people who were there. It was just a small room, like say 20 to 40 people max. So it was my second time I went there. And the first week I had done well. And between that and the second week, I thought, you know what? I'm going to do even better. I'm going to print out handouts, and I'm going to have them working in diets. I had this whole plan. Well, I got there the second week and I started my talk and everybody was fine and the room was full. There were about 40 people in that room. And all of a sudden, so I said, okay, I'd like you to turn to the person next to you. I'm going to give you an exercise to do. And 20 out of the 40 people stood up and walked out of the room.
Oh my goodness.
And I almost wish everybody would have left because then could have drowned my sorrows by myself.
Oh my gosh, that would be awful.
Half of them were, and I was so embarrassed. So I realized, right, and Canyon Ranch, these people are paying lots of money to be there, and they have no apologies. If they're not happy, they go. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, I got to go back to my original outline. So I took all the handouts, I put them on the side. I said, okay, bring your attention to the front of the room. I want to tell you some stories. And so I shared some stories. I asked them to do the exercises in their mind, and it went fine. And at the end of that, one of the gals that was in both, she had come the week before. She said, I came this week to hear your stories again, Karen. She says, these people are at a spa. They don't want to work. So I learned, know your audience. I learned all about that, Holly, and I was mortified in that moment, believe me. But I went on to speak for 2 more years at Canyon Ranch. And then they used to give spa days for the compensation, which is one of my favorite things. And they changed it to like $60 an hour. And by the time I drove there and did $60 an hour and came home, it wasn't worth it to my time. And I didn't get too many clients. We couldn't market. By that time, I was working with coaches. So there was a lot of things that happened. Mm-hmm. But I'll never forget the feeling of being in front of that room and thinking, oh my God, half of this room just got up and walked out. It was a very small room.
That is a pretty epic fail.
It was. It was.
Oh gosh, I can only imagine how I would feel if that happened. That's not fun.
No.
So you just mentioned that now you work with coaches. So tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, I work with coaches to get their businesses going. I think a lot of coaches have the heart and soul of the business, but they don't really know how to start that business. Holly, I'm sure you work with coaches also in getting them branded, getting them started. I also, in addition to helping the coaches get started in their business, I have a couple other programs that I think are really hallmarks. One is a group coaching program, group coaching certification. It's not taught in coaching schools, group coaching. So I put a program together. I'm actually coming out with a book in group coaching probably in the next 6 months or so when I have time to put it together. And that's what another. And the other thing I do is I do an executive coach training because I think executive coaching is just a little bit different than regular coaching. There are some other things that are needed, and so I got this training program accredited through the BCC folks, the Center for Credentialing Education. And so because of that, I also coach managers at Ford so that I can keep my act sharp. You know how they say you really want to do that. And then I know what my clients are going through, what some of the coaches are going through. So I have a few different areas that I work with in my business.
Right, and that keeps you connected. That's good.
Yeah.
And I find your business model so interesting because you work with coaches that are starting out. They're usually fresh out of coaching school, right? Mm-hmm. And then your products and programs almost complement their training that they received in coaching school. And now you're saying now you have BCC accredited programs, and that's just such a good partnership that you've created in a really big need in the industry. So I love that.
Thank you.
And tell me about the moment that you felt like you had made it.
And that's a funny moment for me. It was in my first year of coaching, actually. I mean, and it wasn't a huge success either. It wasn't a top of the mountain, but I went to a all-girls Catholic high school in Chicago for my high school years, and one of my teachers there was, after I graduated, I kept in touch with her, and she was a Benedictine sister, and she was running a nonprofit homeless shelter, and she asked me to coach her, and she sent me a check for $1,000, and I remember just looking at this check for $1,000 and saying, I'm coaching my teacher, and I could do it really, and she's paying me to do this. And there was something about it in that moment that I just knew I was going to succeed. And there have been, much bigger paydays, much bigger successes, but in that moment, I felt really, I don't know, there was a confidence that came there.
It's a good feeling.
Mhm.
I know it's like when you just feel like I can actually do this.
Yeah, yeah. And I made a difference for sure.
Right. So tell me what's different about how you work. So we're talking about branding. So what makes the way you work with your clients different and special?
I think it's my success with ease and joy. I don't do boot camps. I don't push. I help my clients really look for that sweet spot between the being and the doing. Because when I was in estate planning, I was do. I was doing everything, but I wasn't looking at who I was being. I wasn't watching my energy. I wasn't into my own self-care. So I have a nice blend, and most of my friends would say this even years ago, although before I came into coaching, but I didn't really see it, that I have a nice blend of the being and the doing, and I bring that to my clients. So when they start overdoing, I pull them back. And when they're in that being space, I kind of pull them forward. And I wouldn't say pull, actually. I would say invite them forward. So I'm not a kick butt coach. I'm not a boot camp coach, but I do like that intensive spiritual experience. And I do believe, I see, is there a little
Got like a
fly?
fly in here.
I saw something buzzing on the screen. But I do help them to leverage their greatest gifts and their own personal development and build their businesses through that and through what's right for them. And I think that's what draws people to me. And I think it's a very refreshing thing for me. And I think it is for my clients too.
And I love how that really does speak to your tagline of ease and joy. Like the ease part not being, that you're going to push them in too far out of their comfort zone or, force them to do things that they're not really wanting to do or holding their feet to the fire. Like I think a lot of people feel they have to do when they're coaches.
By the way, I did bring my easy button here, so I can just say
That was easy.
that was easy. But I do want to say ease does not actually mean easy. Because sometimes the ease is not as easy. It's
Right.
pushing out of the comfort zone. It's doing something, but there is a sense of ease because it's in the right direction. It's aligned with who we are, and we coaches like to get out of that comfort zone.
Right.
So that's
Yeah,
part of the
definitely.
ease.
There's definitely a difference between easing out of your comfort zone and forcing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think a lot of times people, when they are coaches, they feel like in order to, like you see a lot more people branding themselves as the ones that are going to push you out of your comfort zone.
Yes, yes,
I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I'm going to make sure you get things done. And that's not the only way of doing things.
yes.
And I totally agree that the way you do and the energy that you create and that sense of trust that you create with your clients, that people are going to be attracted to that. And I love it.
Thank you.
So you're doing good work. And tell me what makes your work so important.
Excuse me. I think that, well, to me, my work is important because it makes me happy. I can really do something in the world and I can be happy. And I think in all of my other jobs, I had happiness fleeting, but now I'm like, 80 to 90% happy every day. And some days 100, who knows? And it's important to others because there are lots of coaches that really want to give their gifts to the world and have a really strong mission, and they need an advocate. They need somebody that's going to say, you can do it this way. You don't have to go that boot camp route. And there's nothing wrong with the boot camp route. Some people are really aligned with that. But for those who aren't, there's another choice.
Right.
And that's really important to me. And it's so in the spirit of coaching, of working from the inside out. So that is, and also I do believe that as we raise our own consciousness, any insight that I get, any insight that you get or another coach gets, raises the consciousness and vibration of the world. And so I think it not only starts with me, ripples out to the coaches, but it also makes a difference to the world at large, I think.
Absolutely. I love that. So I have some questions that I'm asking everyone because they're a piece of the brand tale,
Okay.
and they bring out some good resources to share with people. So what is the favorite tool you use in your business?
Well, okay, so this is a kind of an unusual tool for all the things I've just said about all this spiritual stuff, but my favorite tool is delegation for me because I really feel like I can't do it alone. And by the way, I was the oldest of three kids at the age of 2 years and 2 months.
Oh
I
my
had a
goodness.
younger brother and a younger sister. So I was always used to doing it myself. It's very difficult sometimes for me to ask people for help. So this is my own personal development. And delegation is my favorite tool because it helps my own personal development. And it also helps my assistants. They get paid more.
Hmm.
Everybody feels really good. I mean, I have a lot of electronic stuff. I've got all the, iPad, iPhone, all that. I've got a lot of software. I've got a lot of those kind of tools.
Hmm.
But my favorite tool for me is delegation.
And at what point do you think that a coach needs to be before they start delegating?
I think as soon as you start feeling overwhelmed as a
Mm.
coach, then you need to think about what's going on. Like
Hmm.
I remember I hired my first virtual assistant. I was in my own coaching session talking to my coach, and I said, I am completely overwhelmed, and everything I'm doing I love, but I got to take something off my plate. So when you get to everything you're doing you love, but there's just too much of it.
Hmm.
So I knew the person I wanted to talk to, and at the time she was a copywriter. She wasn't even a VA. But I called her up and I said, here's what I want to spend, and here's what I want you to do. Can you do it? And she said, yes. And I think I had 30 something items on my to-do list that I wasn't getting to, and they were dragging me down.
Hmm.
And she did them in like 8 hours. And I was like, it was done.
Total freedom.
Total freedom. And I was happy to write the check. So that was so I think when you've got all kinds of things that you love to do and you don't have any more time,
Hmm.
then I think that's the time to delegate.
That's a great point because again, it's so funny. You say things that are so like counter what people do, and I just keep want to point them out. So most people think that you start delegating when you're not liking what you're doing. Like you're overwhelmed and you're
Mhm.
doing all these things that you don't like. You have to delegate the things you don't necessarily enjoy doing. That's not necessarily true. You might need to delegate some of the things you are enjoying doing, but maybe aren't your genius or maybe are something that you could pass off and it's not going to hurt your business or your clients. That's a
Definitely.
great point. And what is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, I have so many. Well, the number one I think is the spa.
Hmm.
I mean, we've got these two spas here, and Miraval was running this special for $299 for a spa day, which is great, and you get a massage with it. So I've been twice this summer already, and I'll probably go maybe a couple more times. I really love the spa. I also have a couple other things. I actually brought some show and tell. These are essential oils. This one's frankincense and this one's valor. These are Young Living, but I have some other oils too. So Young Living essential oils are really good. I have this other healing oil. It's a roll-on, so it's kind of cool.
Hmm.
I can use it as a perfume or cologne.
Hmm.
And this is made by Beth Hayes at Integrated Essences. And Beth is an aromatherapist here in Tucson, and she makes these things up for me like specially.
Hmm.
So she makes up these blends, and they're really, really cool. She's at integratedessences.com.
Awesome.
And the other guilty pleasure, I just bought a pair of sunglasses. I'm going to show them to you. They're they're like
Oh,
they're
they're so
they're
chic.
Tiffany, aren't they chic? But they got this little heart right there. I hope you can see that.
Yeah, can,
And
yes.
that is, I love having hearts on things. So like there's heart on my glasses, and there's hearts like different places subtly reminds me of going for my heart.
Hmm.
Another couple are Amazon Prime.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're on Amazon Prime, but you
Oh,
can get
yes.
anything shipped to your door in 2 days. And you'd be surprised, maybe not, at what's on Prime. So anytime I have to look for something, rather than driving all over Tucson to find it, I
Hmm.
just go to Amazon right away and see if they have it. So that's
Right.
super easy. And let's see. One other one. I love to read, and I like to read novels to just get my mind off of things, out of somewhere. So there's an author called Catherine Coulter, and she writes these FBI thrillers. And there's this one couple that goes all the way through every book she writes.
Hmm.
So I like to read like the latest one from her.
That's awesome.
Um, I'm sure I have a lot more, but I think I'll stop. stop,
You're just a
stop
guilty girl.
there. Although I don't feel guilty about any of them. That's the
Right.
great part, right?
Right. But they're ways you indulge yourself, which is awesome. And last question, if you were a fairy tale character, what would you be? Or who would you be?
Oh my gosh, I forgot to bring my magic wand. I have all of these things. I would be Glenda from The Wizard of Oz because I really do. I feel like I can help people make their dreams come true. And like
Hmm.
this has been true for me my whole life. And I used to say to people, if you get to know me, you're going to start kind of becoming into this. What's really right for you is going to start happening in your life. And that may be a little chaotic, and I'll be there for you. But every time I had a friend, their dreams came true. And I think that I'm kind of in the business of helping people make their dreams come true.
I love that, and that's such a good way to close this interview, because
You.
that's beautiful. So tell us, how do we reach you if we're more interested in getting more information?
My website is KarenCapello.com. Although I do have success with easeandjoy.com, so I should point it there too. But KarenCapello.com, if you get the misspelling with, it's two P's and two L's in my last name, but if you take the misspelling with one P, you'll still get there. So that's kind of a tip for somebody. If
Yeah.
there's a common misspelling of your name, get that URL and
Just
forward
forward it.
everything there. People were misspelling my name in emails, and I wouldn't get stuff, and so I got that
Mm,
email
yep.
address. So KarenCapello.com. Right now, there is a resources page, and we're in the process of moving the website into a newer platform.
Hmm.
So it may or may not still be there, but if you look for the resources page, there's like 4 free resources at the top of the page. One about group coaching, one about creating your signature program, one about your niche, receiving your niche. There's another contrarian idea about
Hmm.
receiving your niche. And one about measuring coaching effectiveness. And those are all completely free. There's audios, there's handouts, and everything with them. So sign up for whatever you feel you might want to learn about, and then come on into my orbit.
Love that. So yes, definitely check out KarenCapello.com, and I will also be posting the URL on the blog, so they can't misspell it.
Oh, and the other
They can
thing
click on
is,
it.
if you want to go to Amazon, I do have a Kindle book. The
Hmm.
clients you are seeking are also seeking you, and it's like under $5, so it's not a huge investment. But
Hmm.
people say that they read that book and they feel like they got a hug, which I think is cool.
Hug and clients. That's two
Yeah.
things that should go hand in hand.
Uh-huh.
So I have so enjoyed speaking with you today. We're definitely sisters.
Uh-huh.
We have so
Thank,
much in common, and you're just a fan. You just have this fantastic energy. I love it. So
thank you,
thank.
Holly. I appreciate it. And you're a great interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
Definitely. And to everyone that's listening in, this was another episode of Brand Tales. We love having you, and I would also love for you to leave a review on iTunes or Stitchers and tell us how are things going. How are you enjoying the community? And if you haven't already, do subscribe on the blog as well, because we send out reminders and episode recaps and all the resources. So without further ado, I will see you all next week with our next interview, and have an awesome, awesome day. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.